Hey guys, we're back with another Rams Up Roundtable. Ian and Paul on board. What's going on, Ian?
Doing good, gents. It's coming off losses are never fun, and I looked at the film extensively. Excuse me, and I know you both did as well. And there's things to talk about: good, bad, ugly, great. And I'm excited to get together again on a Tuesday and get that cranking with you guys and with you, Ramley, tuning in as well.
And our East Coast, shout out to Paul, man. It's almost it's closing in on Wednesday where you are, and you stayed up to hang with us. I appreciate that. How you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. After this, the 24-hour rule, move on to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
That's true. Jeez, Louise, football
Okay,
season.
let's spend a few minutes on this. Let's look back at the Lions. I'll let you kick it off, Ian, because I think hey, for you viewers out there, check out the channel. Ian has his first orchestrated Rams video film analysis. Really good stuff. So tell us what you learned in developing that little video.
So we'll start with the positive. We got to start feeling good after a loss, but Jared Verse is the real deal, no doubt about it. He stood out tons of times. Was he super disciplined all the time of setting the edge and you know reading the play? He was very much in attack mode the whole way. But what can you expect from a rookie playing against a top 5 line? And I thought he had some great moments, right, gentlemen? When rewatching this thing, making great push with his anger and aggression that showed up at Florida State, having great bend when trying to speed rush. I think he stood out. I also think Bo Limmer filling in that center did an admirable job. Was it perfect? No, but for him in a pinch, being a late round draft pick, and those first team reps really, really stood out, helping him show up and not wet the bed, having to fill in for a decimated O line. We'll get into that. Golly. And I also thought Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp were back in it. I mean, Matthew Stafford, guys, God, watching the film back, it is absolutely
Gunslinger.
incredible how he made some insane throws under constant duress. I mean, I don't think it's sustainable, and we'll get into that. But man, oh man, I mean, it's no wonder Sean McVay said, forget the run. We're just going to leave it in number nine's hands. And even though I do disagree with not running the ball enough, and we'll get into that more, man, oh man, he stood out. Shout out to all the playmakers that came to play. And the defense, man, gentlemen, as a unit, we weren't too sure. And we talked about how it could be an advantage that because Shula did not have game film of his unit and how they play out there for the world to see and for the Lions to see, that could be an advantage. And that sure came to the fruits of the labor that he and that unit put in this game, because they looked fantastic overall. Linebackers, everyone was like, I can't believe Troy Reader's going to get the green dot. And when I shared that news with the Rams universe online, everyone was thinking I was lying, making stuff up for clicks, or I was insane coming to that conclusion based off what the coaching staff and Reader had to say before it was announced. And he played pretty solid. Roseboom played pretty solid at the minimum. Was it perfect? No, but they did enough containing the run where the Montgomery until overtime. Gibbs, for the most part, didn't kick our ass in the run game. And man, oh man, I'm just happy with that unit as a whole. And any positives from you, gentlemen? I mean, those are the ones that stand out to me immediately. Verse, defense as a whole, Stafford, Bo Limmer filling in. King Kupp looks like he's back, and the receiving core obviously stepping up as well.
What do you got, Paul?
Yeah, in terms of the positives, I think Parkton played well.
He looked
The
smooth,
first
didn't he?
half,
He looked pretty smooth,
he
didn't
looked
he? Catching the
looked
ball?
smooth.
Yeah.
Absolutely looked smooth. I don't know why they went away from that, because that was their all game. They could have had that all second half.
Feels that way, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be great. Like, once he gets adjusted, you could see like he's not used to being a primary target, but once he gets his confidence and he gets his legs under him, he's going to threaten that vertical seam. That's going to bring a whole new dimension to the Rams. It really is. I think the wide receiver unit, you could just see the potential that's there. Unfortunately, Puka Nails went down, and hopefully he'll be back. It's a PCL, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But hopefully it's not a season-long scenario.
Yeah.
But if you take a look at what they have, the Golden Gopher, Tyler Johnson, You know, he could definitely hold down the X. I think Cup will go back to the slot. D-Rob will take over, obviously, the Z. And then, you know, you got Jay Witt. And listen, you know, I mean, I'll save this for later, but Xavier Woods is just waiting in the wings. It's time to bring him on. And it's time to move what little capital we have at Tutu Atwell is some capital and bring in a body either for D-line or O-line. But having said that, I think this offensive wide receiver unit can hold it down until Puka Nails gets back. I think the O-line, the O-line was put in a really, really tough situation. They really, really were, right? They had to do a lot on the fly. I don't think the play calling really helped. You know, we commented right away, all of us, like, I don't know why you're not running the ball and trying to protect this unit. And I don't know why you're leaving these tackles by themselves without help, which was another really real befuddling mystery. But I thought just the fact that they were out there competing, I don't believe in moral victories, but to say something about some of these guys that were like really, really overmatched, like AJ Curry having to go against Hutchinson one-on-one. I mean, that's brutal. But yeah, so I like that part of it. And Staff, absolute gunslinger. I thought the secondary of the Rams, particularly Kobe Durant and the safeties, played really, really well. And we had talked about that, about JJ being that center fielder, allowing Curl and Lake to be much more aggressive, and Curl was lighting people up in that game. He was like an absolute heat-seeking missile. Lake was just rock solid as always, and Durant really surprised me. He really, really did. Yeah. Played well, came on that blitz, right? Yeah. And if he comes down with that INT, game over, right? So, but it's all right. It's all right, kid.
And real quick on that play, I mean, what a fantastic job for him to. Yeah. So when we were running combo coverage on that play, so everyone out there really fast, it's one side of the defense is playing one type of coverage, could be anything, and then the other side is playing a different. So we had one side where it was Trey Wright one-on-one and man with St. Brown, Roseboom one-on-one man coverage with the running back, I think Gibbs on that play, and then everyone else was playing a form of cover 6 where there's 2 people responsible deep, but not the full field deep, half of deep. So they had one guy's got in a quarter of the deep field, and then Curl had the other deep, and I think it was Johnson on that play. Kobe Durant had the short area zone right there, but seeing Goff loading up to try to laser beam it on that streak, he just heads up football play says, uh-oh, no one's coming to my way. Goff is going to try to throw it over me. Let me bail back and try to make a play on it. And oh my God, who knew he could leap that high? And if he would have had that interception, that would have been such a game-changing play. But that just shows you what a smart player. He knows his rules and what he's regulated to and how he can bend that to be able to make a play in the game. I mean, damn, gentlemen, that was a hell of a cerebral and athletic play coming together. I mean, that was Ed Reed status, I felt. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, he played well. He really did.
I think that's my biggest takeaway is I just felt like, man, I hate to say it, but we could have, should I use the word elite? We could have a really darn good defense. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's really surprising, but you look at, man, all the Quentin Lake, Cameron Curl, Trey White, Kobe Durant, D. Will comes back. We got, and Byron Young. I didn't watch him a lot on tape, but on his first sack, geez, did he look athletic and quick and powerful. So, yeah, I'm really hopeful.
Gentlemen, all throughout the joint scrimmage practices, we heard that the defense was performing well. That matters. And it carried over into a game playing a top 5 offense with a top 5 O-line and, an all-pro receiver and all-pro tight end and Pro Bowl running backs. And I'm impressed. And week 1 can get a little wacky. I understand that. But I'm happy where they're at. And we're going to need them to help us out and get some wins because we have a tough road ahead, no doubt about it.
Do you want to kick off the bad and the ugly, Paul?
Oof.
Well, I always say these type of games, it's perception versus reality, right? So, Ram Nation, it's always a great exercise when you have these type of games. So, what's the perception, right? And what's the reality? So let's go down the list. Who had more first downs? The Rams, who led even despite despite that overtime where Detroit just took the ball down the field, who led in TOP? The Rams.
Yeah.
Who led in passing yards? The Rams.
Yeah.
Right? So it was a push on turnovers, right?
Yeah.
It was a push on penalties. So then, what was the difference here? We talked about it before the game. So, what was the difference? It was basically Detroit almost doubled the Rams in rushing yards, right? Yeah. Detroit eclipsed 160. We saw what happened. I said it. I said that interior of the Rams is going to get gashed. Bobby Brown spent the entire game basically on the ground, either getting moved 2 gaps over, or I don't know what happened. It looked like he wasn't even lining up correctly. So, he just got absolutely manhandled all
He
game.
did, unfortunately. It sucks. He did.
Yeah, they had no answer for the Detroit ground game. They really did. Even though they did hold them during the game, but you saw it in overtime. Once they got fatigued, it was a wrap.
Did you assess Tyler Davis's performance at all?
So to me, Tyler Davis really didn't play well in the sense that he looked, first of all, he looked confused. He really looked confused. And there were times where he got upfield, didn't hold his leverage, and then wound up letting the running back run right underneath him. So, but he's a young player. That's the thing. And one of the things I really believe this is that this is going to be a unit that after week 8 is going to be much better than what they are now. So they're solid right now. That overtime scenario is something that's a reality they're going to have to embrace. But once they get synced up, right? Once they get to play like a unit, right? And you saw that with Jared Verse, right? And you saw the same thing with Bars, right? In that there were times, that he just got a little bit undisciplined, started to freelance a little bit. We saw they ran that reverse on him, right? When he crashed down, right? So, but that's, listen, those are the growing pains to playing rookies. That's, you just have to live with that. But once this unit gets synced up, I think they're going to get much better as this season progresses, right?
I agree.
So that's a big deal. What decided this game was the red zone. The red zone efficiency. Jesus. Once again, Detroit was 100%, 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, correct? I'm not counting, right? Obviously the overtime scenario. But if you take a look at that, the Rams had an empty trip. I don't understand why they went for it on 4th down so early in the game. But we'll chalk that up to I think McVay panicked in this game. I think really he panicked way too early in this game. Got a little bit too played like almost like it was the 4th quarter and the 2nd quarter.
Well, I wonder if it's also a part of that Dan Campbell does it, so now I got to do it.
It's possible, but yeah,
right, but you're the Super Bowl winning. You're the Super Bowl winning coach.
I know,
right? And you're worried about what Dan Campbell is doing.
Yeah.
And listen, honestly, this is what happens every time there's an O-line scenario where one player goes down in the O-line. We have said this. The whole team falls apart. I don't understand why that is. Because if you think about it, the game did not get away from the Rams. The Rams were right there, and they were 1 drive away. If Kyren Williams, I can't understand why he ran out of bounds.
Oh, that was brutal.
There were a lot of mental mistakes in this game.
Yeah,
the Rams were not sharp. They really were not sharp for whatever reason. From the beginning of the game, the Rams were not sharp. There were a lot of unforced mental errors on the Rams' part. Having said that, so they lost this game based on the red zone and not running the ball. Kyren Williams, I do not care what any analyst on any TV station says. Kyren Williams led the NFL in yards per game. He had less than 20. He had fewer than 25 touches in this game. You're going to lose every game if you have that kind of game plan. Kyren Williams has to touch the ball 20 to 25 times a game.
Yeah, I agree.
Offense tough. You're helping the defense.
I agree.
When they were dropping back into pass coverage, like they weren't even checking the run.
I know.
You're only hurting yourself. Especially you want to run those intermediate routes, those digs. You're helping the defense. You're really.
And Paul, to that point about the run game, Blake Corum 0 snaps on offense.
0 snaps.
What is going on with that? And to your point about just Sean McVay's panic, when he had spoke to the media earlier in his last couple of days, outside of the press conferences, the separate press conferences, a day or two later, he talked about once guys started to go down, like the game plan went out the window, and he just had to call the game on the fly. I mean, he said that.
Right.
But I still think it's no excuse to feature the run game, and we talked about it in our roundtable last week of the preview episode, where we have backups in on the O-line. You need to run the ball to protect them from being exposed against, good edge defenders, good D linemen who are good at pressuring the quarterback and getting after a quarterback. And what happened? We did a complete opposite. We set them up to fail, I believe, by having so many pass plays. Now, was it bad every snap? No, it was not. But the ones that were critical in winning or losing this game, we lost that battle in pass protection. I think of the play where Matthew Stafford had his hands over his head like, oh my gosh, I should have made that throw to Cup. That would have iced the game. I don't care what anybody says. The Lions would have maybe gotten the ball back with under 30 seconds left, or we just run out the clock and we win it there. Now, what happened is that in those critical downs, Stafford got pressured. Maybe a lineman had a hold, like when Whittington got the jet sweep and Curry reached out to get Hutchinson, which was unnecessary because sometimes on those goal line jet sweeps, you leave an edge defender on block because you think Whittington or any receiver running back is going to get around him. And it looked like that was going to happen. Unnecessary there. Unnecessary other holds that happened that killed drives. But no doubt about it, we set ourselves up to fail by having those O-linemen, backups, third stringers, having to hold their own one-on-one with all pro and, really good D lineman edge defenders. So, hey, like I call it, guys. I mean, I'm not trying to be haha, I'm right, but McVay always has at least 2 games a year where his play calling is incredibly questionable and we lose the game. And this is one of those games. Hopefully we don't have anymore, but based off 6-7 years of history, there's going to be at least one more where there's going to be a questionable game where you're going to be like, what the hell was that? Why did we not do this? Why did we not do that? And here we are. Shoot.
Rams could have won this game ugly. It's okay to win the games ugly. And you see it. McCaffrey didn't play for the Niners. They still ran for a chunk of yards off the Jets. Painful, but so they still were able to do that. The Rams could have won this game ugly. They were right there. They had a chance to run out the clock. They chose to pass. They got one series where they got the first out of the next series, but you didn't take any time off the clock. They could have really, really drained the clock by running the ball. And they have all the elements there, even with their second, third stringers in there. They still have the elements to have a really rock-solid running game, and they were showing that. At one point in this game, they were averaging 6 yards a carry and then went away from it.
Of course.
It was really unusual. It was really, really unusual. But having said that, to play Detroit's a good team. Look, take nothing away from them. Detroit's a good team. The Rams were right there with them, despite all the O-line injuries. But it also is a reminder the rest of the roster is solid, and the Rams coaches have to come to terms with the fact they can still win these games without having to go into panic mode. Have a cohesive game plan, execute the game plan. You have to have a contingency plan for your O-line. It takes time for the guys to settle in. People can't walk in off the sideline and start pass blocking. O-line, every O-lineman knows how to run block. That's the old adage, right? Every O-lineman knows how to run block, right? It's the guys that make the big money, they know how to pass block. Yeah. That's the difference.
That's the difference. Right? And we talk about it all the time, right, Mark and Paul? The linemen want to attack, run block, instead of react, pass block. It's that simple. Attack instead of react, and we set our guys up in very, very tough situations consistently. And I will say this, though. I know Noteboom was in, and he had rolled his ankle earlier in the game. We'll get to the injury stuff shortly, I assume. But I wasn't impressed at all with him at all. Like his play compared to our Curry elevated from the practice squad, it wasn't that different. So I don't know how much better it would have been if he was healthy. I mean, it would have been better, but I don't know by how much that would have been. Just sincerely. It
was surprising. He looked off balance. He looked weak, like physically weak. It could have
And it
been.
could be
They
the
said he
ankle.
rolled his ankle on the
I know.
first play of the game, which is interesting. So
But he's
a
always
lot
got
of
something going on, though,
ankle
man.
injuries
Yeah.
with this O line, right? These
Yeah.
lower leg injuries on the K dot. They're saying high ankle. No, I'm sorry, no boom was high ankle. They're saying K dot was in the boot, but they're saying he's day to day. So a lot of these, I'm very curious as to why that is. It seems like the entire Ram O line has some issue with the ankle, and obviously our big dog Avila, he's got the MCL now, so he's going to go on IR. But listen, if these are not season ending, the Rams are going to come back after week 8 loaded, right? Just fingers
Hopefully.
crossed.
Yeah, it's
And
really it.
if you look at the schedule, take out the Niner game, the Rams got a shot, in being, in a decent, being at 500 the next couple of games. So
Yeah, I'd hope they get to 2-2. That's what we can hope for.
yeah.
Yeah. Gentlemen, this is just what a disaster for week 1 for all these many O-line injuries to happen. I mean, Sean McVay, like I always say, you can tell what his mood is and how he's feeling about situations based on how he talks, like the physical tone of his voice and the words he uses to describe situations and whatever he's talking about. And then obviously his facial expression. The last couple days leading even back to the end of game press conference, the post-game press conference. I mean, dude has just been in a bad mood, and he knows that this is just absolutely have this many starters out. And again, we still don't know what Alarg did to get suspended. That cost us this game. Rob
Right.
Havenstein's injury, he has no control over an ankle, but he is an older tackle. We hope this isn't a lingering thing where he goes back in and re-aggravates it. He should hopefully be back, and I don't expect him to play this week, but hopefully back for the Niner game where he's going to be very much needed, and Alarg should be back then. Avila boasted all offseason and every show he was a part of how proud he was to be an Iron Man and play every game. Well, he jinxed himself, didn't he? Not saying it's his fault, but it's just like I feel like every interview he was talking about how proud of himself he was for being an Iron Man at TCU and being an Iron Man for the Rams and playing every snap. And man, he's going to be out till after the bye, most likely. Sucks. So that happened. And then you have your injury-prone, free agent acquisition, Jonah Jackson, who we got to keep our fingers crossed that he stays healthy. Now he's bumping back out to guard. Golly. It's just – and Kevin Dotson, like you mentioned earlier, has got an ankle walking out with a boot. I mean, we're in trouble. And we're in trouble because, real quick, Matthew Stafford cannot get hit like he did on Sunday's game.
Can't get beat up again like that.
He will not survive, and neither will Cooper Kupp getting hit a bunch and getting a bunch of catches. So I'll just say that.
Yeah, just real quickly, I'll go through these injuries. Avila's out 4 games for sure. Puka's out 4 games for sure. Alaric out 1 more game. Noteboom, Dotson, and Havenstein, we really don't know. Now, my thought was, and I'm just trying to be optimistic here, if Havenstein was close to playing Sunday night, we could hope he's ready for Arizona, no?
Definitely. I mean, Paul, you go first. I've been talking a bunch.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
It's based on what McVay said in the Coach McVay show, where he has a separate interview with DeMarco and JB, a voice of the Rams. He says, hold on there, before they say, they were kind of talking, our interviewers were thinking, hey, Havenstein should be back. And McVay just cut that off real fast. He's like, hold on, let's not jump to conclusions. So I assume he's not going to play. They're not going to rush him back based on all these injuries, and we're just going to have to just truck it out. So I don't know about that, guys. But I hope Dotson, McVay said he's hopeful that he should be good. We'll just see, man. But McVay has just been in a bad mood, and it's pretty revealing that he cut off that talk of Havenstein coming back immediately. He wasn't like, oh, I hope so. He was like, hold on there. Let's not jump ahead of ourselves. So he's not there yet, I don't think, Mark. Shoot.
McVay's losing his patience with reporters. Every interview that I crack up, he'll go after 1 or 2 reporters. Yeah. What are the comments? But that's the thing. That's exactly what he said. He said he's not gonna rush Big Rob back. He knows, if you ask Rob's going to say he's ready to go. But that, we need the Havenstein monster to be the Havenstein monster, right? So if he could at least shut down one side, the right side, and be comfortable that you have your starter there, you can put something in effect on the other side. So, the injury part of it, but look, you can't throw the season away. And this is something I had said in the offseason. The Rams have gone from 2 seasons in a row, giving up on the season. This is a reality, Ram Nation. It is very hard to shift that mindset. Just say, all right, now we're going to go for it. Right? When you have spent 2 years telling your whole squad, let's just don't worry about it. And then last year backfired on you because the squad turned out to be pretty darn good. So this is like, I think when I say getting back into sync, this is exactly right. Remember last season, the Rams started out sub 500, and they had that block of winning 7 out of 8. That got them into the playoffs. And that's exactly what I had said. The Rams have to get back into a sort of a mindset of being able to string together blocks of games where they play well, and not always these peaks and valleys where you can't really predict from week to week how they're going to play. So they have to get back to their base. What is going to be their base? Hey, listen, if it's going to be their passing game, so be it. Listen, the reality is in the NFL, the modern NFL, the passing game is where you're going to do damage. All the rules are set around helping the passing game. Think about that. And that's the reality of it. But the other aspect of it in football, doesn't matter what age football you play, the basic element, the easiest thing to execute and the easiest way to demoralize a defense is the running game. And you have to have some element of a running game. And when you have a gifted running back like Aaron Kyren, and you have Rivers, and you have Blake the Great, and you've invested literally half of the United States gross domestic product in your 2 guards, you got to run the ball. There's no excuse. And when Havenstein gets back, you got another monster on the right side that you can run the ball behind. So at some point, you've got to reestablish the ground game. And when they established the ground game, man, they were sick last year. And don't forget, that Super Bowl run when Sony Michel started churning out the ground game, Rams were a whole different team, right? They were a scary team when Sony Michel started churning out the ground game.
Yeah. I'll say one last thing before we move on to transactions. I want Rob Havenstein back for this game. I want him to crawl out there and play and get a win against his Cardinals.
On all floors, if he has to. It's okay.
That's how I feel about it, because we need a win to right the ship, and the Cardinals are a very beatable team. Everybody that can is able to put on a uniform should be out there playing, but that's easy for me to say sitting here in my little man cave. Okay, let's talk about transactions. So the one addition to the roster is this Dylan McMahon. He was drafted in the 6th round by the Eagles. I read his little draft report, and I think it was Lance Zierlein or one of those NFL.com guys. They said he's going to be strictly a center, but I guess Ian, your thought is, or it was Ian or Paul thought he could play guard or center for this team. Probably just bring it in as insurance, depending on how the rest of this stuff sorts out. And then they also brought in 2 tackles. I think they're both tackles, Jerron Christian and our old buddy Ty Nsekhe. So the Rams adding some insurance there, and they released safety Jason Taylor and tackle, I think he's a tackle guard, Blake Larson. Mm-hmm. So let me set the table for you guys. I think the scenario next week could be worst case scenario with all these transactions, all these injuries, and let's say but Big Rob can't go. So we'd have, I'll leave out the left tackle, the most important, but the rest of the group could be okay. Jonah Jackson, Bo Limmer, Kevin Dotson, and Warren McClendon, who I think played okay. We haven't talked about him. And then you plug in Ty Nsekhe or this other guy, Jerron Christian at left tackle. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Ian?
I mean, not good. I mean, look at it's just crazy that we're at this point already and we're only 1 game in. But I will say this about McMahon. I mean, everyone from the Eagles side of things, I have a couple buddies who are hardcore Eagle fans, and they said they can't believe that McMahon didn't make their roster, that he had a really great camp, had some showdown in the preseason, and for him to just be a practice squad guy was insane to them. And much of the Eagles internet sphere agrees with that sentiment outside my two buddies that are Eagles fans. So he's going to have to be on this roster for a minimum 3 weeks. That is what the rules say when you steal from another team's practice squad. So he's going to get 3 game checks at the minimum. Let's just say things get crazy and we cut him or he plays bad. He's still guaranteed 3 game checks. So he's going to be around for those 3 weeks if he is serviceable based on all reports he is. So that's nice. And then Ty coming back, he was part of the disaster season. He had played some admirable football. He wasn't bad. He wasn't great. He was just pretty average, which is, I guess that's all you can hope for when you're down to your second and third string offensive lineman, right? And I'm not too familiar with the other gentleman here. I'm blanking on his name for whatever reason right now. I'm sorry. Can someone remind me real quick?
Christian.
I'm sorry, Jerron Christian. I think that's how
right.
you pronounce his first. Yeah.
So, our Curry struggled. We just get bodies in and see who can just step up the most, right? And fingers crossed on Dotson. But if Dotson doesn't play, then I do think maybe McMahon fills in for that guard spot. But,
Yeah, you could put McMahon at center, and if they're unhappy with Limmer's play, it gives them. I think they have some flexibility on the interior, but that left tackle spot.
I think they'll keep Limmer at center. They're not going to mess with that.
Yeah,
he's got enough first team reps even in preparation for this. So what about you, gentlemen? Great that we're getting reinforcements, but God.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. We got another Wolfpack kid, right? So the kid, the center from that they took from the Eagles. So I agree with you. So I think that was a purposeful signing because they need depth at center. Bo's going to be the number one. They need another center to back him up. They do, and listen, look, on the practice squad they got McAllister and Dedich, right? I don't think Dedich is really ready, but McAllister in a pinch, if they get desperate, they could. But I think now they have a quality backup center. They legitimately have a quality backup center now. So Bo is there. They have a ton of guard types. There's no question. If you look at their depth chart, they have many more guard types. It's they're really thin at tackle. And we said that from the beginning. It's just Alaric Jackson really hurt this team, and he may get his walking papers at the end of the season. It's going to be hard to let that scenario go of how it cost the Rams so dearly early in the season. So the other aspect of it is if you take a look at it, they don't have much if Havenstein can't go. It's a really, really, it's like smoke and mirrors at the tackle position. It really, really is. Look, those are the cards you've been dealt. Christian does have, if you look at his resume, he does have, double-digit starts at tackle. Is he ready to go right now and start at tackle? Who knows? That's tough. That's tough in the NFL, right? But, you never know. But, a Curry, it's hard to assess because, look, he's not a left tackle. He's a run-blocking tackle / guard. That's where he's going to fit best. Yeah. So, but then who do you put on the left side? Now what's interesting at McVay's interview, he did mention Logan Bruss by name. They might slide Bruss into the lineup so that way they have some more flexibility at guard and move some guys to tackle. Maybe they'll move McClendon to left tackle and then maybe let a Curry go to the right side or whatever they want to do. But the interior part of it, if you think about it, Limmer, Jonah Jackson. And then if they have to go with Bruss, listen, serviceable, you can go with that. That the interior is there. But once again, are you going to utilize it properly and let them run block, right? Because that's what they do well. Listen, Bo Limmer, Ram Nation, go watch that game. Bo Limmer has shown a lot as a rookie. The Rams may have stumbled onto something. And just to project ahead, they got a real dilemma on their hands because they're going to have 3-4 quality interior linemen and only 3 spots, right? So which is really, really great for them. So you got Bo Limmer on his rookie contract, right, for a couple of years, which is really, really great. And, if Havenstein, at some point decides to call it a day, I honestly think K-Dot, as good as he is as guard, he could play right tackle, and he would be a beast at right tackle. I really do. He would be a beast at right tackle.
Possible, yeah.
So definitely not left tackle, but I know he had some issues at Pittsburgh when he was at tackle, but honestly, he's definitely, top level guard, but I think he could eventually get to that point where he'd be comfortable at right tackle. But that's just projecting ahead. But as of right now, tackle is going to be their dilemma.
Yeah, maybe we should segue into the issues the Rams have, how it's going to impact our next game against our next opponent, the Cardinals. And let's talk about offense versus the Rams offense against the Cardinals defense. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to dig up my notes here, I don't think the Cardinals necessarily have an incredible pass rush. So that's on our side. And in the Kyren Williams against the Cardinals, he's probably licking his chops. Last year, I think he had a combined over 300 yards in those two games, right? So you'd hope they would plan on running the ball, and you'd hope that the patchwork offensive line wouldn't be, they're not going to have to deal with Aiden Hutchinson, at least.
Well, thank God.
Right. So how do you, who wants to go first? I know you're both you're going to want to pound the rock. How do you think what do you think our prospects are against the Cardinals, our offense against their defense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is simple as run the football. You got to protect those backup tackles, but it's just controlling the clock and finding a way to just close out possessions with points and then just eating up time. Because let me tell you something. If we have multiple 3-and-outs, that game plan I just said that we should do, the Cardinals are going to do exactly. Going to try to wear us out in the run game with James Conner leading the way, and then obviously Murray on read options or quarterback keeps, powers, all that stuff.
And Benson, don't forget Benson.
And Benson too. Yes, that's right. He did look pretty nice. So
another Seminole.
That team was pretty good. I'm sure they miss all those guys, right? We got two of them. They have one. Anyway, I mean, really, Mark, it's that simple. I love Budda Baker. I mean, their defense, was playing pretty good against Josh Allen and a new unit there on offense. But, Allen being elite quarterback, and they found ways to run the ball and throw the ball on them. So they're not there yet. But if we have these quick 3-and-outs multiple times and Stafford's getting hit and we're not running the ball consistently or just giving Kyren carries and just being consistent that him, Blake Corum, or Ronnie will break one free, I mean, we're on serious upside, and I am worried about this game, truthfully, based on the offensive perspective. So, got to protect the O-line, run the damn football. It is that simple. That simple, right, Paul? Right, Mark? Shoot.
Yeah, before you go, Paul, share some stats. I brought it up here. I haven't run through my Cardinal preview yet. The Rams have won 13 of the last 15. Last year, Kyren ran for 143 and 158. And I think I thought I saw the Cardinals favored by 1. I had to blink and clear my eyes. Is that correct?
Well, I have not seen anything. I mean, I haven't purposely looked, but we're decimated. So a lot of Vegas people are like, hey, this Cardinals team is improved. They're not going to get a scenario like my background where Kyren's killing them 2 straight games in a row. And
Wow.
I am worried. If the offense has a whack game plan, like, McVay tends to do every now and then, but that's at least on offense, right, Paul? Shoot.
Yeah. Sorry, Paul, I didn't give you a shot at how do you feel about the Rams offense?
Hey, listen, KISS, keep it simple, son. Right? You want to win this game. Listen, you also got to protect the psyche of your team. Listen, this is a lot like the Chicago Bears game, right? When the Rams got exposed, right, on a very innocent-looking game, and Jared Goff, showed everybody why he's Jared Gaff, right? So the whole bottom line is this. It's very, very simple. Everybody saw what happened in overtime. The entire league saw that. This team, I rewatched the Arizona game, right? They got their ground game going. They did lose that game, but, they did get their ground game going early. They're going to try to want to do that again against the Rams. The interior of that defense is still suspect. You got to protect your squad. I honestly believe there are times, I know as an offensive coach, he wants to get his offense as many touches as possible. We understand that. But this is one of those games where you want to shorten the game, right? You're still going to get plenty of opportunities with King Cup. You're still going to get plenty of opportunities. The other thing that was lacking in the Detroit game was they didn't take a lot of deep shots. When they did take the deep shots, what happened? Pass interference calls, right? They were manning up on those guys. They should have been taking deep shots all game. Staff didn't have the time, but when they were able to get it up there, Staff did the right thing, man. He put it up there, let his guys get it, and you got like three, I think it was 2 or 3 pass interference calls right off the bat. So they got to take their deep shots early, run some skinny posts, do what they got to do, really take advantage of that. This wide receiver squad is talented, but they got to have that balance. They got to protect their guys. Otherwise, you're going to get guys injured again. When things get chaotic, guys get injured. As soon as that Detroit game got chaotic, you saw the players start to go down. When things get chaotic, players get injured. It's just the fact of football, right? Keep it simple, grind it out, win this game ugly. Kyler Murray does not play well against the Rams. Contain him, keep him in the pocket, make him a pocket passer, right? And let your talent level win this game for you. Do not go to the Mike Martz school of coaching. You don't have to throw the ball 60 times to win this game. You're going to win this game. Give the ball to your big boys. They will win this game for you. You're going to get plenty of chances. And I think Staff would be happy, too, not to have to throw the ball 45 times. I think he's happy throwing the ball 30, 35 times. He's like, dude, his efficiency rating is so high that if he only throws the ball 35 times, you're still walking away with 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. He'll be fine.
Yeah, from a Rams defense perspective, based on what we saw Sunday night, I think this is a good matchup for our defense. I think they're young, fast, energetic. Now, Kyler Murray is probably going to make them look foolish on a couple of runs, but overall, and Marvin Harrison, I think I got it right here. He was limited to 1 catch for 4 yards, so they'll probably try to highlight him more. Greg Dortch is Go ahead.
No, I'm just like, it's crazy. Like all the hype, and dude only had 1 catch. Crazy. Yeah. I mean, I want to say their offensive coordinator said this in the last couple of days. Like the goal is to get Marvin the ball, so they're going to try to force it to him a ton in this game, and that's going to be key for Tre'Davious White. I assume just because body types match up a little bit better. Kobe Durant, he can handle it. I feel too, just based on the athleticism and his growth as a player, cerebrally as well, and. Gosh, Mark, got to stop the run or things are going to be a long day. Have to stop James Conner. That's as simple as that.
Yeah, so against Buffalo, he had 16 carries for 50 yards, and Murray had 5 rushes for 57. So Murray had a couple of big runs.
Yeah.
That'll be a challenge. But I just like the ability of the Rams to harass Kyler Murray. You got to be disciplined when you're pass rushing Kyler Murray, though. 100%. And maybe Trey White can take away one of because Greg Dortch is a pretty challenging, extremely fast receiver as well.
He's got good agility, for sure.
Yeah. So.
And you got McBride. They were throwing a lot to McBride. They were moving him around. So, this is going to be a good bounce back game for T. White. Did not have a good game. He did not have a good game. Right? He had that one play that he gave up that huge touchdown. This is going to be a big bounce back game for him. I think he's going to play really, really well. Listen, look, he hasn't played in a while, so it's okay. We understand. This is going to be a huge game for him. I think the Rams defense, you got Jared Verse, Monster Zero. So Bars and Monster Zero, they have to be disciplined in their rush. All right, they're athletic enough to do that. They're enough to contain Kyler Murray, make him throw from the pocket. That's their game plan. Keep it simple. Listen, they got to show us something in the middle. Troy Reader, listen, he was playing a whale of a game, just wasn't wrapping up. Same thing with Roseboom. They got the whole Ram defense up front got to wrap up a little bit better. There were a lot of times where on impact, they were behind the line of scrimmage, and Detroit running backs were still able to ground yards forward. That can't happen. So And as the Rams are really trying to like sort everything out and find their identity on defense, the good thing about the Detroit game is even though they got manhandled on the run game, right? They were physical. They were trying to be physical. That early on, Troy Reed with that form tackle, that was sweet. Lake, another one, throwing the body around and curl was just just lighting people up. But they have to be able to put together a really nice effort, put their offense, field position. The Rams had a really nice job with field position in this game. They were conservative on special teams. I think McVay did the right thing. I know one of the reporters had asked him about that. That report is way off base. McVay was 100% right. Kick it out of the end zone, right? Kick it out of the end zone. The other thing is that they're not even using Atwell on returns. I have no idea why he's on this roster. I'm going to come out publicly and say that I was cheering for him, but listen, at this point, he's not returning kicks. He's been a non-factor in the passing game. I know it's only been one game, but listen, the trade deadline in the NFL comes by really, really quickly, right? It shows up really, really quickly. You got to make a decision at this point. You need a real body. It's not just a matter of signing a free agent. You got to get a real body in there that can play the interior of this D line. And when you look at the free agents that are out there, the only guy that really stands out for me, excuse the pun, is Lawrence Guy. I mean, you talk about an unheralded D tackle that can stop the run, and he did it for the Patriots, and he did it well. And he's a guy that could play limited snaps. He's 34 going on 35, but he can play limited snaps, but that dude can shut down the run. If there's anything he knows how to do, and he's got length, right? So, put his hands up, knock down some passes, right? Not the most gifted pass rusher, but he can get it done. If they're going to go that route, that's a guy I think that would fit, playing a couple of downs, doesn't have to play all three downs, can't play all three downs, to be honest with you. But otherwise, they're going to have to make a move and really bring somebody in, an impact player on the interior of that defense, which is what I said from the get-go, right? There's some guys that are out there that they can definitely do that with. The other thing is make a move and try to get some type of legitimate offensive lineman, right? A legit offensive lineman that can play. Even if he's not an all-star caliber player, but it's going to help you get through the season.
Yeah, I think Gallimore had limited snaps in this game. Hey, who else played really well? I mean, Quentin Lake. I think I'm going to get myself a Quentin Lake jersey. I love that guy. I think he's he's a stud. But John Johnson had a really good game, at least according to Pro Football Focus, and he laid the wood a couple of times. So he had a good game too. Who's out there? Probably should have talked about this earlier, and I don't know how I always butcher his last name. The old Green Bay offensive lineman David Bakhtiari. Yeah. I understand he's still out there. I know he's a veteran at this point, but so
it's worth a shot. I like Bakhtiari. I said it from a couple roundtables ago. I think Bakhtiari would have been a great backup to have on the roster, and, even sliding him in at guard, right? It would have been. His pass blocking, you're absolutely right. When he was at Green Bay, his pass blocking grades dropped dramatically, right? But, look, at this point, when you start comparing some of the guys you got on the roster and the guys you're bringing in, Bakhtiari looks like Orlando Pace when you start looking at comparisons. So he's just, and a wily veteran, is not going to reach out and grab a face mask when Jordan Witten Jay Witt's walking into the end zone. Right, he's smart enough not to do that, not to take anything away from my boy AJ. But AJ, dude, come on, you gotta let that one go. But so there's some guys out there, but you got a little bit of trade capital with Tutu. I think if you're not going to utilize them, you're just chewing up a roster spot. You got Xavier Woods already. Xavier Woods, in my opinion, forget everything else about potential. From what Tutu has produced and what we have seen, I don't think the two of you would disagree with me. To me, that's a push. I say go that route.
Yeah, it's really odd how they've handled Tutu. Every preseason, they don't play him. Every preseason, we're led to believe, oh, okay, he's going to be getting some snaps. He's going to be a big part of this offense. And then throughout the course of the year, he'll have one game or two games where he gets a couple receptions, maybe a 40-yarder, and move on to next year.
Use him or lose him.
Yeah,
that's simple.
Yeah, and gentlemen, we're gonna, speaking of this defense, and I was just thinking about it. They're starting right tackle Jonah Williams, who is not going to play in this game, and that's a big blow for them too. He got hurt in the opener, so we got to expose them with their backup in. And I expect Byron Young or Jared Verse, depending on how they want to match them up or rotate them into whatever side, left or right. I expect that to be a key factor in us potentially winning, but got to stop that rushing attack. Murray running around, scrambling, or rushing, and obviously Connor and Benson not gashing us. And if we make Kyler Murray have to throw their team into victory, then I think we got a good shot. But golly, I'm stressed over this game. I'm not going to lie. Because, gentlemen, don't you agree? If we lose this game, I mean, how could you say we're going to beat the 49ers at all? How could you say we can beat the Bears with a good defense? How could you say we can beat the Packers with good offensive players, good O-line, good defense overall? I don't know how you could. So this victory has to happen or things are going to snowball negatively just like that. And we'll be like, well, the season's in jeopardy 5 weeks in, right? We can't have this game
Yep.
be a loss. We got to pull
Yep.
this off somehow. Golly.
And that's my point exactly. You got to salvage the psyche of the team, and you got to salvage the momentum of the season. And this is a game where you have to do that. There's no question about it. You have to step in as the coach and say, tell your coaching staff, we got to take this one back. That first one, whether you want to say, nobody's saying you got to say it publicly, but you got to say that one was on us, right? You got to say that one was on us. We had a chance to win that game. We had the ball, and we gave it right back to them with 2 minutes and change left. Well, we could have, salted that clock down to like nothing, right? Whatever that game management, like I said, they brought in all these coaches that were going to help with game management. The Rams' game management down the stretch was atrocious.
Yeah.
It was absolutely atrocious.
Same old song and dance.
And when Detroit was running the ball on them to not take a timeout, to wait till it got to the 2-yard line to take a timeout, when your defense looked gassed, you got to take that timeout a lot earlier than that and give them a shot to regroup something. Listen, people forget AD, when he pulled that team aside, he said, dude, blow up. That's what turned the momentum. And sometimes, listen, and that was a big thing that stood out for me when I was watching that overtime was like, who was on that defense was going to stand up and say, guys, let's snap out of it, right? Man up and let's stop this, right? And listen, that's the void that we said it's going to take time to fill, right? That leadership void of EJ and AD not being there, right, to stop that type of scenario. Because what Detroit did was kicked him in the teeth. They had no response. Arizona is going to test that early. They're going to say, well, we're going to kick them in the teeth. Let's see how they respond. And if they don't respond, the entire NFL is going to be like this. Well, now we know how to get at them. Yeah. And then you're going to have the entire season, but that's what teams are going to do. So you're going to have to draw that line in the sand early on in the season in game 2 and say, no, we can stop them in the middle.
Have to win this game. Have to.
And we will. And we will, Ian.
Go Horns, baby. Go Horns.
So what's the score predictions, gentlemen? Shoot. What you got in this? How we winning?
I'll go first. I think Kyler Murray is going to make a couple of mistakes. He often does against us. I think our defense is going to step up. Going to be a relatively low-scoring game. I'm going with Rams 23, Cardinals 20.
You go ahead, Paul. I'm thinking about it still. I'm just kind of mustering.
I think McVay comes to his senses. He rides the big dog, Iron Kyron, Blake the Great, and Ronnie Rivers. They get their run game going. I think they win by 10. Right? I think they get it done. I think, Arizona, definitely a dangerous team. If the Rams don't respect them, if the Rams show up, I think the Rams can hold on and win by two scores.
Oh, man. I'm here facing down because I'm just trying to be logical and objective about it. I mean, gentlemen, this game's going to be another nail biter, I feel. I mean, we're down so many people. We hope McVay has an objectively smart game plan. We don't know if he'll do that. We don't know if the analytic guys are doing anything at all that's working to get to him. But I'm going to say, a nail biter 24-20. Rams win it if they do at all. On my little paper here, if you can see it. 24-20 for the physical copy so everyone can see. Because, guys, if we do win it, it's going to be close. And just because we're down so many people, but it needs to be pulled off. 24-20, I believe, will win this and escape the desert with a much-needed win. But ends up being more, great. If it ends up being less and we still win, so be it. But, yeah, I don't know if I'd bet money on this game just based on just all the injuries and who's gonna
well, if you
maybe
bet on
play
it,
or not play. Sheesh.
well, if you get on it, if you bet on it, they're giving you a point. So there's that.
Yeah, well,
And Iron Kyron owes it to the fantasy owners. He's got to have a big
Yeah.
game. He owes it to them. Come on, McVay.
Hey, we did call one thing right. We said don't draft Puka in the first round and draft Cup earlier than the fourth round. So sadly, well, kind of half sadly, we were right on that. But I'll say this, and I don't have the data, I haven't done the analysis, but I feel like if you stack these 48 man active rosters on Sunday against each other, I still think the Rams have an edge. There's obviously
For sure.
some concerns along the offensive line. They
For
have the better team,
For sure.
but it's just quite the predicament with the way the offensive line is,
Yeah.
what they're dealing with right now, and what it does to the game plan and all that
Oh,
other
yeah.
stuff. So,
And shout out to Puka, man, and to Big Dog Avila, man. We're pulling for you, and the rest of the Ram linemen, right? We're pulling for him, right? But especially Puka, man. It was tough to watch, man. That guy gave everything last year and got beat up, and to see him, like, he was dejected when he was, when he had to sit, he knew he was, on the cart. You could just see it in his face. But hopefully Puka Nails is back before the end of the season, and going into the playoffs, he can be there. But same thing with the Big Dog Avila.
I mean,
Yeah.
the earliest, gentlemen, I believe we're going to see him is after the bye week 6. The earliest we'll see them both is maybe week 7 against the Raiders here in LA. Maybe if they heal up well, but who knows on that? Sucks.
okay, guys, let's just hope for the best. And a reminder: check out Ian's film analysis, Orchestrated Rams, good stuff on the YouTube channel.
Thing of beauty.
Yeah. And I'll come back with my preview, more detailed preview on the pod, power rankings, game picks, all that good stuff. Make sure you subscribe and like these videos. Really appreciate it. And that's all I got. Have a good week, you guys. And next time we talk, maybe Sunday night, maybe Tuesday, Rams will be 1-1.
Shout out to my son, birthday on Sunday.
Hey.
World's biggest Jet fan. Love you, Big Dog.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to one young Walia. That's what's up.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Thanks a lot for your time out here from Rams Up.
Ramley
Ram.
forever.
Please win. Please.